Hey, what's up? This is Chosen. This is going to be a Diablo 3 video where we talk about the Demon Hunter and one build to kind of aspire to as you start your journey in Season 28 on a Demon Hunter. One build that can be competent in all content, whether you're doing greater rift speed farming or you're doing regular rifts or bounties. We'll have kind of a jack of all trades starter build that I lay out here for you with infographics and everything, and then show you examples of the runs and cover all of it for you in this video. Let's get into it. Alrighty, now first of all, right out the gate, I will give you an infographic that lays out everything I'm going to cover in this video. So if that's all you want, that'll be linked down below, and good luck. Have a good rest of your day. Maybe just like the video and throw a subscribe on the channel on your way out if you would like to, but there it is. If you just want the simple version, you can have that. And now if you want to stick around, I will explain the build in more detail and show you some example runs and all of that. Okay, so as we dive into crafting a build that's going to be good for all sorts of content, we want to take advantage of the Hadrig's gift set, which in this season is going to be the GOD set. That's going to be revolving around the primaries doing a bunch of damage. And in the context of this build, we're going to be using Strafe to proc that effect as we kind of gain momentum and are able to do very good on speed clears is kind of the general theme. And then obviously, once you're up and running, you want to start thinking about min-maxing and get a better build for bounties and for regular rifts and for greater rift pushing and start moving into more niche things. But to start your season and start your journey, you do want that general utility build that you're spending your blood shards to go after and really get developed and augmented and up and running so that you can farm efficiently and snowball your progress. So let's pull up that infographic again as we talk about what pieces of gear to hunt for. Obviously, you're going to want to take advantage of the Hadrig's gift set. And actually, let me move that so it's not blocking that. Okay, there we go. That'll be a little bit better, hopefully. So, okay, for the weapons, we do want to use the dual crossbows, and we want to probably spend our first primal on a Dawn or like a Yang's recurve. The Yang's recurve will help you a lot for resource cost reduction. I think it's going to be great to craft that initial primal. That's what I did to take advantage of the Dawn to get a maxed out cooldown reduction Dawn with some of the maxed out stats, and I kind of went that route. Then for the offhand, you want the Fortress Ballista. The shield that it grants you is just super impactful for helping you stay alive. It's more hardcore viable, and it's just going to be a good quality of life offhand. Then in the cube, I think you want to go with the 9th series satchel. Obviously, this is amazing for increasing the damage of your hungering arrow. And then Hunter's Wrath, just going to make those primary skills do insane amounts of damage, which is going to double dip with the build revolving around those primary skills. And then the Ring of Royal Grandeur, going to be a good quality of life thing, so you can squeeze in something like the Guardian set that you see right here, because this is an amazing set at the start of the season. And on the subject of the bracers and stuff, your element for this build is going to be cold. So you definitely want to get cold percent damage on like your bracer and your amulet when you are building those. And definitely look out, because those are great multipliers. If you also transition to like a Stone of Jordan version of this build, the ring, you'd want the cold percent damage Stone of Jordan. As far as the legendaries we're going to use in this build, Squirt's Necklace is ridiculous. You definitely want to take advantage of this because it's going to be just helping you crank out insane amounts of damage while you are clearing and help you really progress and speed farm as fast as possible. And then also the Depth Diggers are going to be really good pants because they make your primary skills deal a lot more damage. And Depth Diggers are really, really difficult to roll. This is probably the toughest piece in the whole build to get a good roll on, because you want like an ancient version that you can augment. It doesn't come with 2 sockets native. You also want to get the Hungering Arrow damage on the pants. So very, very difficult to get good Depth Diggers. If you're looking for something to spend your blood shards on, like if you're like, okay, I got my set pieces and stuff, I don't know what to gamble for, you can never go wrong gambling pants in this build, because until you get like a primal or a god tier roll on Depth Diggers, you can't go wrong spending your blood shards there. And then all the other slots are pretty self-explanatory, but for the rings, we're going to be starting with focus and restraint. These are going to be great because obviously we're using our primary, and then we're also using a spender from the strafe that's proccing constantly as we're doing the rift. And I'll do a run and I'll kind of show you the rotation of the build here so you know kind of how it plays. But focus and restraint is an amazing starter option for getting this build up and running efficiently. For gems in our gear, I do like to start with putting some diamonds in the chest and then some emeralds in the pants and obviously emeralds in the weapons. The reason I like to do the breakdown like this is because you're going to be stretching yourself really thin on those emeralds early in the season. You can see even doing this, I need 4 maxed out emeralds. And then it allows me to use a different gem because as you can see, it ends up being an even split. I've got the 4 maxed out emeralds and then the 4 maxed out diamonds with the 1 in my gem that will help me keep vengeance up permanently, and then also getting some toughness here on the chest. The legendary gems that I would recommend going with on this build is going to be the Tagak, the Simplicity's Strength, and also the Bane of the Trapped. Now, worth noting, and I do note that on the infographic that I linked you earlier, that Bane of the Stricken is also a very good option, but the Bane of the Stricken is a little bit better option as you scale up the content and it starts to take a little bit longer. So if your greater rifts are taking 3.5, 4, 5 minutes, something like that, then the Bane of the Stricken can be a decent replacement for Bane of the Trapped, possibly, as you're hitting mobs way more times and you're scaling up to stack the Bane of Stricken stacks. Then for the actual build and the passives, obviously our primary fire is going to be Hungering Arrow with the Cold Rune. That will give us each consecutive pierce, increases the damage of the arrow by 70%. This is, I've done some testing. I actually got really lucky early in the season, and like my 3rd bracer craft was these primal Guardians aversions, but they were lightning. So I did actually try the lightning and it was decent. But I did notice that the cold version of the build ends up being the best rune here on the primary, in my opinion, even though the lightning version was pretty good for like speed farming. Like if your GRs are taking 90 seconds and you're just blasting the whole map, then lightning is perfectly fine. I do enjoy the smoke screen displacement, but if you're having problems with discipline, it's actually a pretty good idea to take preparation on this and go with the focused mind, because we do want to make sure that we're keeping our shadow power up permanently. So if you're not having problems with discipline, especially if you're using like the Yang's recurve version or something, then you could probably go with something like smoke screen to really boost your toughness and your mobility and all of that. But for consistency, preparation is also a really good choice, and it's going to depend on your build and how you're kind of managing it and how it's flowing for you. But on the infographic, I did put the smokescreen version because it's a little bit safer. Like when you've got moltens going off and stuff, you can kind of get out of dodge and you can proc your smokescreen and get out of there. So it's a really good option to have on your bar, but preparation is also a really good choice as well. Vengeance, we want the permanent vengeance ideally. So get your cooldown to a spot and test it in town. It's usually about 35, 38%, somewhere in there. You can get away with, if you don't mind like 1 or 2 seconds of downtime, you can get away with like 32 or so. But I do recommend testing this in town, and I think vengeance lasts for 20 seconds. So make sure that when you pop it and then watch the cooldown and see how much downtime you're going to have as you're kind of planning your build. The Dark Heart rune is amazing to help you really sustain. If you're not having any problems with toughness, you can try a different one, but none of them are really amazing. We don't need hatred or anything, so I would recommend Dark Heart for most builds. Phantom Blades, this is just a toughness slot. It's just to give us 40% additional armor and kind of coincide with helping us sustain during our clears. And then the Shadow Power, there's a couple options here. You can go with Gloom. It's a little bit more hardcore viable. You can also go with Shadow Glide for the more speed farming version for more mobility. So both Gloom and Shadow Glide are amazing options. I play hardcore, so I tend to lean into some of the more toughness options because deaths are pretty devastating when you've got augments and everything going on. So I like to lean towards having more toughness. And then obviously strafe with the drifting shadow, so we have the consistent movement speed and the strafe to constantly proc everything that we're doing in the run. And then the passives, there's a little bit of leeway here. If you're not playing hardcore, you can swap out awareness for something like ambush for a little bit more damage, for blood vengeance to help you get a little bit more discipline and make the build flow a little bit more, tactical advantage advantage to get a big movement speed burst when you use that smoke screen or something. So a few different options there, but obviously I'm going to be using awareness here on the hardcore version. And then Coal of the Week, Hot Pursuit, and Steady Aim are pretty generally useful stuff. The Steady Aim, it might seem like it's bad, like as long as there are no enemies within 10 yards, damage is increased by 20%, but no enemies within 10 yards is actually pretty small. It's pretty easy to accomplish, and it's obviously going to help you out with Rift Guardians a ton and stuff like that. So a very good passive. So, okay, then for playing the build, what are the things you want to focus on? So we do need to get the stacks of momentum. So you want to hold shift and left click, and then you see I get those stacks down here of momentum, and it goes from, 7, 16, 15, 14, and it counts down. And then you have to do your primary attack to stack up that momentum. So every now and then, every 2, 3, 4 seconds while you're playing, you're going to want to use your primary ability on an enemy, hit shift real quick while you're clearing, and just keep those stacks of momentum up because they really help you within the build. And then also doing that is going to double dip with your focus and restraint and help you keep up the full bonus capabilities of your rings set. So that's probably the most difficult or annoying thing to have to manage in the build. Other than that, you're going to be strafing around permanently and making sure that you spam your vengeance on cooldown and keep that thing. You want to try to be as close to permanent vengeance as possible. And then you want to get in a nice rotation of hitting your shadow power about every 5 seconds. You can see I hit my shadow power right there. And then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hit it again. Boom. 1, 2, and you want to kind of get in a rotation of hitting that shadow power on that time frame. And then the same thing with Fan of Knives, but you don't have to hit this one quite as often. You just want to kind of hit those 2 keys about every 6 or 7 seconds while you're clearing to keep up that armor and also the shadow glide as permanent as you can. And other than that, you hit your preparation when you're low on discipline, or if you went with the smoke screen version, you hit your smoke screen when you need to get out of the area as fast as possible, and then you just hold down your strafe button and kind of maintain the build and the flow as you're going. So let me go ahead and fire up a Greater Rift, and I'll show you what it looks like in practice. So, okay, let's fire up like a Greater Rift 105, something that'll be quick. I like to keep it on hardcore mode. I like to keep my speed farming runs around 2 minutes, like a minute 45 to 2:15, somewhere in there. I think if they're taking like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, that's too much for hardcore. Maybe on softcore, it'd be ideal to be in that like 2:30 to 2:45 range. But on hardcore, I like to stay in between a minute 45 and 2:15. So let's see what we can do here. Let's start the rift by kind of spamming our abilities. And then when we get to our first enemy, we want to make sure that we're left clicking on it to really get those stacks of momentum up. So alrighty, let's light up the rift, spam our abilities, start getting our momentum stacks up. So as soon as I find mobs, I need to left click on them a few times. There we go. I'm left clicking, getting those momentum stacks rolling on everything. Okay, there we go. Wasn't able to get a ton there. Not the best map, probably. Could have been a better start there. Oh, this map can be pretty good. Keep those momentum stacks up. You got to be stopping to left click on things. Like I said, that is kind of the more annoying part of the build. Shield Pylon is great, not only for the toughness, but also for helping us keep the squirts effect more permanently. Sometimes there's not a ton of elites on this map, but it is good in terms of open space to roam. There we go. Make sure we get all the orbs. That mechanic is a little bit wonky. And then the thing we want to make sure we're paying attention to down on our bar is those momentum stacks. Clear through here. Yeah, see, not a ton of elite packs. I should also probably talk about the mechanic. Oh, here's the map we're looking for. This is the GG map right here. Now we're in business. There we go. Little bit late though. And there you go. See, just under the 90-second threshold that I like to keep the speed farming runs at, and boom, that's kind of how the build rotates. And like I said, the most annoying part you want to pay attention to is definitely the stacks of momentum that you need to constantly be hitting shift and left clicking to keep that up to 20. Also, quickly worth mentioning, like I kind of remember during the build, you definitely want to take a little bit of time to get some of these emanates effects on your follower. I think gloves of worship are great, and then nemesis and flavor of time are amazing. Avarice is great for regular rifts. The Ring of Royal Grandeur, again, is going to help you with regular rifts to get some of those death breaths, and then also to get extra keys here from the Canes set, and also getting extra keys. So just some options to consider there on your follower, making sure you're set up there as well. And then if you're going to pop into a regular rift, obviously you can swap some stuff around if you want. You can change out for another like movement speed passive, or you can swap a skill here and there. Like I could take off the gloom and put on shadow glide and do a few different things that would help me clear the regular rift a little bit faster, but it's not super necessary. The build will perform just fine in regular rifts, but at some point you are going to want to min max. And like I said, you just want to start by left clicking on some enemies here to get those stacks of momentum rolling. There we go. I got that up to 20 pretty quickly. Not the best start map wise here. Go. But you are going to be blasting through content just fine damage wise, obviously with the GR build. Like the one size fits all build. Once you start min-maxing, you might want to start using things like Rachel's ring for the movement speed on fear. And I'll get a dedicated video out about the regular rifts build because it is definitely a little bit different. But I did want to at least get a good starting point out there and give you one specific build that you can aspire to that will be at least capable in all content, that you won't have to be constantly swapping around gems and swapping around gear and setting up stuff in your armory, because it's really good to just get up and running with a good build out the gate and then start working towards some of the min-max type stuff. So let's jump ahead a little bit here to the end of the rift, and boom, very easy and smooth T16 clear, and bang, right there we have it. There it is. Remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy Diablo content. And like I said earlier in the video, remember I will link to the infographic down below if you want to pull everything up on your end and have it laid out in text form for you to easily look at whenever you would like to. And that's kind of the first build that I aspired to this season, and now I'm getting into the min-maxing for specific situations, and I'll do infographics and videos on them as well. So hope you're enjoying season 28. We've got the developer live stream coming up for Diablo 4, so I'll definitely be covering that and reacting to that here in the channel and keeping you in the loop on everything that happened over there. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Peace.